We're up, I
It's
think.
happening.
It's happening. This is Schemeology. This is Jack, the GOAT, and this is Jared. How you doing today, Jack?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to talk schemes, baby. I just got
So
back
many
from
schemes.
SF.
Nice. How's that going?
It was interesting. It was my first time in San Francisco,
Yeah.
so I was interested, obviously, as a tech bro, to see what the whole
Yeah.
scene was with the homelessness, but also all the big tech companies, all the billionaires, all the influence, the culture, the progressive political woke ideology.
Yeah.
I was really excited to see all of it because me, I like the madness. So I like
Yeah.
all of the
Yeah.
stimuli. Um, so it was interesting. I had a lot of fun. I also got to camp, which meant I got to go kill fish and catch rainbow trout and cook them over a fire, which felt sweet.
Hey, what's up, Reed?
It was just a solid time all around.
Dude, I feel like SF is the perfect place, but filled with the worst people.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
genuinely fantastic from a climate and like
Yeah.
ecology standpoint.
But
But
it's like terrible.
yeah, it's some ways I will say my friends have a beautiful apartment that's really like with a
Oh, nice.
backyard, and they had a guest bedroom for me, and it was like big and nice. Their kitchen was gorgeous. They just had a really great setup that you could never have in New York. It would be $15,000 a
Yeah,
month
yeah.
or whatever it would be. And it was nice to experience like nice quality stuff with good food. Like we stayed in our bubble. Like we went to the restaurants we wanted to. We only hung out with each other. We did go
Yeah.
to a bookstore and we saw a bunch of like super liberal books. And you know me, I would consider myself a liberal, but when I say liberal books, I mean like fake fiction books about politicians, like mystery or romance fiction novels
Yeah.
about like Feel the Burn or A New
Oh my
Hope,
God.
and it would literally be like one book. I swear to God, I wanted to actually show. I actually have a photo I could send you, and we could show to
Let's see
people.
it.
But I'll text it to you as I
Yeah, yeah.
talk. But dude, um, so they had these books that were like literally political ideology books, like trying
Whoa.
like, but it was like framed as like this as like like one of the books was like a mystery novel with like Joe Biden and Obama hanging off of a
What
helicopter.
type of psychopath reads like they get their heroism from like political like figures?
Oh, I
What
just
type?
I just sent you one. I just sent
Let
you
me
one.
see this. Let me see this disgustingness. Let's see.
Is there any way we can pull it up?
I don't want to. Can anyone see that? No, I'm like dumb.
No, you've. What are you? Yeah,
It's kind of there.
it actually is kind of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, hope rides again to feel the boat burn, and hope never dies. I could not stop laughing. I was
Imagine,
cackling.
dude. Well, what's funny is like imagine being like, wow. Like when you see that, you're genuinely like, wow. You're like, these are my heroes.
I mean, if that's what you're doing, God help us all. God help us all.
Dude, there's
Not
so
good.
many NPCs. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, you walk around, and I'll be like, wait, how many people that are walking around genuinely don't think about anything?
A lot. A
Is
significant
it
number.
is it really a lot?
Yes, I think we've even talked about this. I think I was obsessed for a little bit about the idea of interior monologues. My
Yeah.
whole my whole this is my theory. When you describe an NPC, what we're describing is someone without an interior monologue.
You think I
Yes,
actually I heard about that recently, and I'm like, that's crazy. You can't. There's definitely. I think there's misunderstanding on internal. Everyone has an internal monologue. It's thinking, right? So like,
yeah, but some people don't hear a voice narrating in their head.
so what do they hear? Just like
Nothing, nothing. They
buy
think
the
like an
product.
I, you're gonna have to ask one of them because I have 1,000 voices in my head. Not
Yeah.
maybe a
Well, that's like
thousand,
a
but at least one
you
strong
might
one,
you might need to be in a little cage then.
possibly. If
That's
we
that's kind of the
hey,
problem.
you and I might be on the same page there,
Yeah.
but yeah, man. I mean, a lot of people don't have an interior monologue.
Dude, I feel like if if I didn't have an internal monologue, I would just go out. You know what? It might be nice because I would just go out and just do like I don't know. I would just do anything. Like I would just walk around and just be like, and then someone's like, "Hey, you want to go come here?" And I'd go there, and I maybe life would be a lot easier because it'd be less stressful.
Well, I think it might be easier. There's no argument against that. They also may be happier. Internal monologues may be like a happiness disadvantage because you have to like
Yeah,
think about things with a voice nagging you in your head, or whatever, calling out your insecurities.
and you can't like. I feel like if you have that internal monologue, if you don't have internal monologue, you're just open for scheming all day. Everyone,
Oh, we'll
dude,
get
you can get schemed by like a little some black kid selling fruit snacks on the subway. You're gonna get schemed by
easy
anybody.
scheme to fall
Anybody.
victim to. Easy scheme to fall victim to.
Please, my football practice.
Dudes,
Please.
seriously. That's right. I've got actually a folder for you to sign. Oh, do you have a folder? You have papers in the folder? What school do you go to? Who's your
I,
principal? Start quizzing them.
I really envy dumb people. They don't have to question anything, think about anything. It's actually crazy if you think about it. Like, uh, like how many people are actually out there and they look at one of these books and they see like they look at Bernie Sanders and they're genuinely like, well, to be fair, like I get falling for the political thing. I fell for political traps before, but to actually valorize these people,
Yeah.
like that's like you have to be like the dumbest person ever.
I mean, listen, the idea of creating a book about Joe Biden and Obama solving like a war mystery together as like action heroes, if that's your form of entertainment, you may actually be criminally insane. It, it it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about SF is you go there and you have like the most self-righteous people in the world and then all around them and they think they're morally superior because they're doing climate thing, whatever, insert X thing, and you look all around and there's the most destitute human beings sleeping on the ground
Do you
as
want to
they
hear?
hop over them and drink their tea and crap on you for your political beliefs.
But do you want to hear my controversial take? Is that the thing is this is nothing new. This is just another cult, right? Like religious
Yeah,
cults of the
yeah, that's
past,
true.
like anything, right? Like people in cults, whether it's Christianity looking down on people for hundreds of
All
thousands,
right, all right. Well,
no, let me talk.
okay,
No,
okay.
I mean, like, but not the oppressive form of Christianity. There's the
I get what
innate
you're saying.
religious,
Yeah.
but I mean, like the church going and like
I agree with that part.
so I'm saying like that it was a cult in that sense. People abuse what is a good and constructive thing, which is Christianity. Christianity is great. And the best people I
I
know are
see what you're
Christian.
saying.
So I'm saying like the cultish elements of like crusades and deaf children getting,
Oh, dude, this is a let's just like go in on the schemers, our forefather schemers. Like, cause that's like okay, we're in this like I was talking about this actually a little bit earlier on the stream yesterday, but like we've just been in this lineage of these like top like hardened schemers that have been like slowly getting people to consent to their BS. It starts with like okay, you have to it's like the old church. It's like you can't actually read the Bible. We'll just tell you what it says and you have to give us money so we can organize you.
exactly.
And then they have tons of kids that just inherit wealth and they also inherit this is controversial, but they inherit IQs. So like they actually are like they hold this knowledge for generations and the ability to read and to process information for years that now you actually like there is a class of people that's like it's kind of smart. I mean not anymore. I mean I'm saying like 1,000 years ago there was like actually smarter than everybody and they would that's why it's so important to read. Has SF always been ultra far left and filled? Yeah, yeah,
Well,
dude.
so here's the thing. But okay, so here's the thing. Yes, but like everything, there was San Francisco for like all places had you know Republicans that lived there and more
Yeah,
moderates that
true.
lived there. And liberalism didn't mean what it meant today. There
Yeah,
was extreme liberal beliefs in San Francisco, and there always has been. But a lot of the time, it was for like having black people have equal rights and stuff, which was extreme back then. But
Well,
then,
we can unpack that. That was a psyop, but Florian's
oh
like,
yeah,
oh, dude, that's. I mean, let's get. Oh yeah, hey, what's up, Florian? Okay, so like, dude, okay, look at the divorce rate, it amongst blacks in the 50s versus today. Just look like there's so much like secret knowledge out there that they don't tell you because as soon as you know it, you're gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna like buy your stuff, and I'm gonna like live my life. But like the people didn't like. You wanna know the real red pill? A lot of black people didn't like Martin Luther King. A lot of them loved Malcolm X, and you know why? Because Martin Luther King they saw him as the house, and we're on YouTube, and because he was like, oh, I'll talk to like LBJ and all this, and we don't have to get too into it, but like that's a scheme. The whole like black families were decimated over the past 50 years. Just literally walk around. You're in New York City right now. Go walk as just keep walking east and like until it's like 2 a.m. Like it's not going to be a fun time. Is YouTube not going to I think I already got
I'm trying to unpack your points. So just let me make sure I understand this. I want to follow the logic, and then we can go from there. So what you're saying is
Let's follow the logic.
It is that Martin Luther King, which I know not everyone, Malcolm X, I think, like the FBI, the government literally went through attempts to minimize how influential Malcolm X was across the board. That's kind of why he was killed, and maybe killed by our government. Maybe Martin Luther King also was, possibly.
I think he was an asset that was killed, and I think he was also. You can kind of see who's an asset based on how much baggage they have. Like he was like a serial like cheater. And I'm not trying to crap on the man. He did great stuff as well. What changed black traditional culture? Media. A lot of blacks trying to like the busing in. Actually, I'll address Jack what you're saying and also Florian at the same time. Just look at what happened after, and you can ask any black person over like 50, 60 the culture shift after the busing in and I wasn't around, but this is just familial bonds being passed down to me. The culture shift was traumatizing. You have like and tons of more. First you have a lot of like separation, and I'm not like all about that. I'm not all about people, being super separated. But now all of a sudden you have these neighborhoods being forced by the government to merge together and have their kids go to school together, which sounds nice on paper, but it actually was like super traumatizing for both sides. And a lot of the black culture started like getting like a lot of the things their kids were now being raised with this quote unquote white culture, and a lot of people didn't like that. What is busing? Oh, like so essentially like they would like bus in kids from like black neighborhoods into white schools essentially. Well,
They
school
still do
buses.
that in many places.
They still do it. Yeah,
That happened in my high school as well.
yeah.
That's interesting. So, I mean, I think there's an in
And
art part of what you're saying is like you literally couldn't even argue against, which is like, the like we like to act like the 50s.
oh, sorry, hold on 1 second.
Uh-oh. Jared's gone rogue. That's fine. I can entertain myself.
Uh, I just had to get my brother laptop charger. Anyway, but yeah,
All
sorry. Continue what you're saying. I'm
Well,
back.
what I was just gonna say is like, it's hard to argue with the fact that like post like the end of segregation, the blacks had a really tough time. Like there was still lots of racism. The institutions were still pitted against them. They struggled to get loans until the 70s and the 80s for homes, so they weren't able to build equity. And like the biggest lie that we tell is like, how do white people disproportionately have money? America subsidized housing for almost 50 to 60 years, and the boomers were able to buy homes and then make millions of dollars like in just equity home value and pass it along to their kids. So you have a
Yeah.
generation of rich people in Long Island and New Jersey or whatever who are like, black people have to pull them up by their bootstraps. Black people who are denied loans to buy the same homes that they would have loved to buy in your neighborhood. And so that whole generation didn't really get
Yeah.
have the ability to make money and wealth. So there's a
I
million.
agree. That's an interesting point. By
It's
the way,
hard.
Jack,
No, it's hard to argue with that though. That's just
yeah.
a fact.
By the way, Jack, we're not doing labels. Yeah, we're just guys talking. There's no labels. I don't know,
Labels.
Jack, are you a political label?
No, I don't like politics, and I don't subscribe to either political party. I
Yeah,
think for many
me
years
neither.
you would have described me as traditionally liberal in many, and I
Yeah.
am quite liberal in in most ways. I'm socially liberal. I'm happy to talk about individual politics and like, and Jared and I, one of the reasons I love talking with Jared is we disagree on a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm probably more traditionally liberal than he is, but
Oh,
not,
definitely. Yeah. I'm
but
not.
but
I'm like I used to be, and I was raised that way, but I'm like not now. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't think either of. I've voted for Democrats in the past, and I've voted for Republicans in the past. I've done both, but yeah,
Yeah. I feel like nowadays things have become so political in day-to-day life that like it is exhausting because it's not fun. Like it sucks out the energy. It does. Like whenever you're at like a job or whatever, you're doing anything and someone starts like, "Oh, did you hear about like Biden, blah blah blah." You're like, "Dude, shut your mouth."
yeah. It's like I think it's unfortunate because politics is inherently important from like a
It is. It is.
geopolitical, like where's literally the earth going, but we don't even think of politics like that anymore. Like it would
Yeah.
be, I wished people thought about politics like how is our country going to improve, stay dominant so it doesn't fall victim to like competitive nations that could be
Yeah.
very bad for the world and its citizens, and then like also manage resources so that the whole world can prosper. Like I'd love if
Yeah.
people thought that way. We're not. We're like, we want those Republicans to lose because they're horrible people, or we want those Democrats to lose because they're horrible people. I want, well, you know what I care about? Progress,
Yeah.
societal
Yeah. Yeah.
growth, my happiness of my family and those around me. I don't care about a label.
But here's the thing though, and this is why the labels like it's like we reject them, but they do kind of matter because a lot of people's idea of progress is totally different. A lot of people's idea of progress is like horrible. Like so Florian's bringing up AI. There's now the AI accelerationist. What do you think about these people? These people that it's like, let's just accelerate this as fast as we can go and just see what happens, and just like it's kind of like a black pilled perspective. I'm not an expert on it, but it's sort of a black pilled perspective to be like, okay, let's just kind of push AI so much that it just destroys any concept of labor in society and just ride that wave
And
and see what happens.
and yeah, hope for the best, right? Like, and that's the
Yeah,
interesting thing about that is it's not a horrible option from a game theory perspective.
it's not.
Like, because there is the possibility that AI is non-malicious, and it's like becomes like almost like a godlike being that's like it helps fix his problems, it wants peace and whatever. Like, or it's a domineering one, which would be
Yeah.
horrible. But if it's not domineering and it's just generally productive for human growth and progress, we've evolved fast. Big risk to take. I wouldn't take that risk, but it's not a horrible,
Do,
like it's not unlikely to happen.
do you think? Because I'm like, I've been thinking about this a little bit. I think that like the scheme of AI is like almost like this last ditch effort to just be like, you know what? Like the way things are going with the economy, let's just make it so that we can control the means of like all production as fast as we can, but do it through technocracy. So like, yeah, like I pretty much just mean like they can't actually do it through the government, so they're just gonna like force it with the market.
I think you tend to just go straight to conspiracy, which I
Oh,
love
dude,
that. I love that energy.
100%.
It's definitely not though. I think we also have to condition that like,
You think?
yes, Jared, I think the technology was evolving at this rate. Like we've predicted
Yeah,
and written about AI for over like 100 years now. I mean,
it's
think
true.
the Turing
Asimov. Yeah,
Turing test. I mean, we talked about this in the
Yeah.
40s, in the 30s. So it's not a new concept by any means. George Orwell, etc. Like, so it was going to happen. It just is like we don't know timing, and it's happening quickly. But like we knew it was going to happen quickly when it was going to
Well,
start
I
happening.
don't even mean like there's an organization doing it. I won't make that proclamation. YouTube, what's up? Get me on that feed. But like, but what I will say is people take advantage of the strides of technology. They scheme the strides. And I'm saying like in the localized aspect, right now AI is clearly picking up. I think you're gonna see some people try to control society with AI. There was this, oh yeah, Matt and I were talking
Of
about
course,
this.
people always try to control society, and they
Yeah, yeah,
always use the most like they use the newest technology to control society. So, like,
100%.
of course, people have used bullets to control society, nuclear weapons to
Yeah,
control society, computers, the internet, misinformation, media, tech,
yeah.
TV. Everyone controls the society with all new technology. So,
So,
yes, I
so
agree with you.
speaking about like SF, because you were just in SF, so you got like the SF. You have the SF glow right now. So
I have the
like,
SF Go. I'm
yeah.
I'm I'm now full liberal. What if I just came back progressive? Wouldn't that be fun? I just came back and then but only for like a week. And then like I was just like, and you know what? We need to pay the homeless people. They need
Yeah,
$400 or $500 a day at a minimum. I know the $1 billion we spend in SF, that isn't enough. We need more. It
yeah.
needs
No, but like, so this whole like, I think people in SF, and you see it in New York in a different way, in my opinion, a slightly better way, but people tend to make their own little realities.
yes.
And cities are really good because you can just never leave the reality. It's like it's so resource excessive. It's in such a surplus that you can eat and literally be like, uh, arted. I think that was good for the algorithm, and like so. With that being said, and all we're talking about controlling society. I've always seen that people that want to control society the most are the people that want to live in their own reality and they can't face the real world the most. And I've seen that since high school. And like I think SF is like their where they pray to. That's like where they go to worship.
Yeah, well, they also listen. They're everywhere. They're different.
Yeah.
That's we
It's true. It's
SF
true.
is our progressive liberal variant. There's I don't know if you've been to Palm Beach, Florida. We've got family that lives
No.
there. Those people are crazy rich Republicans who are
They're
like,
too old.
and they're just their own. They want to live their own lie, which is that like, which the old reason they believe that is so they
They
have lower taxes and their life gets to be great.
they want to
So
be 30 forever and
right.
it's just
And
yeah.
suck up the resources. They destroyed the planet, and now they want to suck all the remaining resources out of America and let everyone else suffer because that's what boomers do. So that's Palm
Yeah.
Beach. That's the Palm Beach Republican variant of political psychopath. SF
Yeah.
have its own. Palm Beach has them. Texas, Connecticut. They're all over the place. They're just psychos.
Yeah. And I feel like the legal system a new invention to force to be more civilized. No, a legal system gets created. A legal system isn't a new invention. A legal system gets created as soon as you like order a pizza. You get like a little mini government set up.
Of
And then
course,
you
it's
get checks and
contracts.
balances. Yeah. Uh oh dude, yeah, the cities in America are nuts. And so the interesting thing with that reality distortion field, so my theory is that, well, this isn't a theory. You can sort of see that helps. That's helped tons of schemers this past like 20, 30 years in tech. I think it's crashing. I think the reality distortion field is like no longer gonna be. You can't just like just reality your way to like billions. I don't know. I might be wrong. I don't know.
You don't think you can like trick people into believing something to make money anymore?
I
I
don't
don't
mean
know. I
that.
don't.
I don't mean that. I
I,
mean
I, I
like
don't know what do you mean?
I mean like I think that you can't like you can't just I think there's so much content. There's too much content and people are too inundated with content that you can't just like it's more of like the authenticity thing. You have to be super real to get through to people that have access to everything.
Yes,
You know what I mean by that?
of
Like, I
course.
mean that's what I mean.
I see. Well, I mean, listen, yes, because like content, everything has become commoditized, content especially. So everything
Yeah,
is trying to sell you something in some different way. It's very rare when you find something that's just authentically funny or
yeah,
authentically informative or authentically interesting, and that
yeah,
people don't have another ulterior motive. It's very rare because we live in such a capitalistic society. That is one
yeah.
of the downsides of capitalism. It's great in many ways, but it does lead to the commoditization of everything. Everything is going to try and make money out of
That's
you in a
true.
capitalistic society. That's just what capitalism does.
Yeah. And yeah, dude, you came back from SF. You're like talking about capitalism. You're
I
like,
love capitalism. You know
no,
me.
I know, it's just fine.
I'm a capitalist, but that's the other thing is like what you know me. That's why we have fun in conversations. Is like there are sides to everything.
It's
As even as
true.
a pro-capitalist, but I'm not one of these lunatics who's like there's no downsides and consequences of capitalism.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Capitalism is inherently greedy. So people
Right.
will, in order to make money, destroy everything in their way that they can get away with to make money in a
Yeah.
capitalistic society. That's inherently in economics. I forget what it's called in economics, but that's a term in economics, which is like the reason regulation exists is because inherently in economics, people destroy the world to make a dollar, and they'll destroy the world for everyone to make $2. So you
Yeah.
have to regulate. That's an inherent part of economics.
And also, an inherent part is you have to keep inflating currency and you have to keep liquidation extremely high and you have to keep printing money in order to keep the system afloat and keep people transacting. Because really, like, the value that you get from the bank isn't like that. It's not like the so I guess I'll make a scenario. If I'm just like one craftsman, if we have like five craftsmen on an island and we all make each one of us makes all the materials that we need to pass it around, the only reason why we would need a bank is really for like seasonal things. It's really for like, oh, like just to hold this for me. And it's really just like to have a note to give me like and to say let me hold this for the next season. But outside of that, like banks don't have that much value um, until you get like insane amounts of population. So all I'm saying is we have to take down the banks.
Definitely not. We definitely need
I'm just kidding.
banks.
I'm just kidding.
No, I know, but of course, banks are a function of society. If you want to live in a
Yeah, I know.
society, we need banks. But if you don't want to live in society, banks are really useless in a small area, a small group of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, because right now there's the whole tradcon movement,
What is
well,
that?
like traditional conservative thing, where
Oh,
like you kind of see it on Twitter where it's like there's the tradcon girls,
of
there's like,
course.
there's a lot of people that they love the idea of going back to traditionalism,
We
going back
always
to the
love
way things were.
They always do because whenever times are changing and things get hard, people go, let's go back to what worked in the past because that was great. Except they forget all the terrible things that went along by it because we have selective, horrible memories. We only remember the good. We don't remember bad.
Right.
That's kind of the nature of the human memory. So we go like that traditional conservative thing that was the best. That was when things were safe, perfect, and we
So
go to that.
we talked about this a little bit earlier, and I think this will get into some interesting convo because we talked about this last week. But I think that it there's truth to that. There is, I mean, that's true what you said, but there's an aspect to this need to go back to the past that so many people have now that I think is a reaction to a slow spiritual death that we're having in our society. I think the Nietzschean idea of God is dead is being lived out, and we're seeing like degeneracy, hopefully YouTube, spread out through society, and people are like they can't handle it. What if capitalism is the womb of AI-driven communist utopia? Imagine benevolent GPT dictator. That's what people want, I think.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if that's what AI is going to be, it's not the worst outcome theoretically, genuinely. Like if you think about it, where it's going to go, it's not the worst outcome. It'd be nice, but it could also very easily not be that too. It'd be the downfall of society too. It's just there's really no good way of seeing that. Can I also grab
Yeah.
water for 20 seconds.
No, you
I'm
can't
dying.
grab. No, no, you're good. You're good.
I need to hydrate.
I got so Reed is like but what's the added value that banks have if they disappeared it would lead to disaster? Well, they would. It's more that if they disappeared, you're so well, we all are so dependent on banks that literally like all the convenience you have will shatter. So there is that. That would happen. But like I think the added value is mostly to just have IOUs for resources in a localized sense.
That is absolutely the most useful thing. I mean, we always forget about debt. Debt is the most useful instrument of a bank.
It's of the bank, yeah, yeah. But it's also Reba, dude.
Okay,
It's true.
it's true.
There's
It's
a
true.
billion people reject debt in the world.
I know.
It's
I
interesting.
know. It's not. It's not. I'm glad I'm not in debt.
Yeah, debt sucks. Don't get in debt. The debt scheme is an
Debt seems
interesting
bad.
scheme. Like I don't know, the schemers that try to set up like mini pyramids of value, pyramid schemes so that get you in through the hope of getting higher up. That scheme is probably the lowest form of hell. I think I know people that are like super throughout life that have been super into things like that. They always get like black eyes, and it's like creepy.
Yeah. If the way we trade goods and our vision for what a currency is changes, I think they're not needed anymore. So you're saying for banks, I yeah, theoretically, for sure. There is a world where that's kind of the advent of like peer to peer finance is like theoretically, you could hold on to your own money and just trade it with instruments using smart contracts online. Theoretically, right? That could be dollars, that could be Ethereum. It doesn't really, I don't really care what the currency is. But then you create a system where you're not using banks to hold, house the money. You're
Right.
transacting directly through people in a peer to peer exchange. And you could do that for stocks and home exchanges and all sorts of other transactions. So there's no longer an intermediary. You do it directly. That is a possibility. And that would, in theory, be very interesting. That's kind of why what crypto could hope to do someday if it is actually able to scale and work.
Yeah. I feel like the crypto scheme is actually going to start re coming back in the fall.
Definitely.
It's never going to go away. That's the thing about crypto is it can't. It's too powerful in the world of an idea. It's just like as long as we have internet, we're gonna have crypto. It's not gonna go away. But I do think we're gonna see some world coin action, 100%. As a France, the amount of debt U.S. citizens are willing to take on is insane to us. Okay, France. So
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Florian. The problem is we don't have a choice.
right,
Everything. If I get struck, if I right now I'm briefly uninsured until my next insurance policy goes in. If I get hit by a car, I'll owe several $1 million if I don't want to die and I want to keep my legs. So America makes it as easy as possible to get into crippling debt across every way. Nothing is subsidized. There's education costs $300,000 to get a good one. So I
but
mean,
also love it or hate it, like the debt. Okay, the debt scheme is horrifying. It's led to in my opinion, a slow spiritual death that we're in. But like the U.S. is, love it or hate it, the U.S. is the last line of defense for the economic powerhouse of the West. So you don't have that responsibility, France. So you guys can enjoy your more homogenous culture and your higher taxes, but it's the two new pillars for freedom. The decentralization needs to be, yeah, but the thing is, everyone talks about decentralization as humanitarian, but money's never humanitarian. It never is. And once you get into, in my opinion, once you get into like humanitarian stuff with money, you start getting like Sam Bankman-Frieds that are like, I want to heal the world with my funny money, and then they just start like scamming everyone.
yeah, the only way that humanitarian things are good for the is when they're technology. It's not
Mm,
businesses, it's technology. It's like
true, true.
you invent a filter. um you know
Yeah. Yeah, like I feel like the whole like it's interesting the idea of humanity, like, because a ton of people in tech try to start their businesses being like, we're gonna heal the world, and they're really just trying. They're really saying we're gonna scam the world, uh, and we're gonna scheme the world. And I find it fascinating, but like I do admire people wanting to do good. Like I don't want to be like too super black pilled about that, but like at the end of the day, a lot of good comes from like, family, not to be hokey. It doesn't really come from like how much funny money you make off of the people that are being scammed.
Totally. I think the Florian, the point about Americans taking up consumer den is interesting. I agree with you. We do have a terrible cultural problem that encourages people to buy and consume to such a degree. And also, I think, Florian, part of the problem is that people who have no money or are already in education debt can get a credit card that allows them to buy $15,000 worth of junk whenever they want. And so we allow people to take on credit, even if they haven't earned credit. You're allowed to do it. So the incentive allows for people to do this. And then people are inherently greedy. So I don't know. I'd be curious, Florian, if you could tell me whether or not in France you're allowed to just open a credit card with no money and no debt and no credit system, and then put $20,000 on it for a new car. If you can do that in France, I'd be really interested. But you can do that in America, and that's the real reason that consumers are buying so much is they're
And
allowed to spend money they don't have and will never even come close to
honestly,
having.
even if France does or doesn't have that, the American culture is very consumer based. And like no matter what the systems are for consumerism and debt in America, it's the people here. Like I'm not gonna be super pro, I got the American t-shirt, but or tank top, but I'm not gonna be super pro America just because there is like, Jack, we have like the American dream has like just broke the minds of like a lot of people. And we're like just people that genuinely think that like they're entitled to the world because they were born in America. And I think that that leads to people being like, well, yeah, I like it's so easy to sell someone with that mentality because you could be like, well, like, yeah, like I deserve to have that. Yeah, of course. Like, yeah, of course. I need to have the big boat. I need to have the big car. I deserve it because I'm like special. We don't have.
And of course, it's certainly encouraged. Culture does not help in America, and when you have the obsession with celebrity, the obsession with products, everyone knows what Gucci and Prada and Versace is, and it's like people used to not know what Versace was. I think we talked about this once, where it's like the idea that like the poorest people in America know what like the most expensive brands are. That never happened. If you went to the
Yeah,
countryside 80 years ago and were like, I'm wearing a Cartier, they're
yeah,
gonna be like, what? We got
yeah,
Levi's here. You got Levi's? They're not like, oh, is that the Model 7J STs we? It's like you make $22,000 a year. You didn't know what Gucci
yeah.
was. But now you know what everything is. And they're telling you to buy it, even though you make minimum wage. You should still buy it. You need Gucci loafers.
And in like certain communities, it's like a lot of this hyper like branding is just downstream from like really a hyper masculinization that happens when it's almost like you're in a constant. It happens in like hunter gatherer tribes where it's like you have to have the biggest like hat. You have to have the most colors on you. It's like a very domineering thing. Italians have it as well, um, which the algorithm likes. But like, so like there is this like very like you consume to like show and to dominate to some extent, which is bad. I think that's like terrible.
Yeah.
We do
What do
not
you
have incentive, so we focus. What do you think about effective altruism community? What is that?
so effective altruism is like Sam Bankman Fried, which is like I'm becoming a billionaire so that I can save humanity.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
No, yeah. No, it's typically from it's the whole reality distortion feel. It's like people that like it's always this like weird relationship with wanting to like save the world And whenever you hear someone try say they want to save the world, it's typically because they can't save themselves. That's
Can I
that's how I look at that. Yeah.
can I also comment that people who actually want to save the world and desire to don't go around, they go do stuff.
Yeah,
They're too big. They're doing something right now. You don't know who they are. They're like, putting
yeah.
wells in African villages right now
Well,
in under the sun.
they're putting wells in their neighborhood. They're helping like
Right.
their friends that like them and their family that actually likes them. It's like you'd be surprised how many people, because especially in Jack, I know you know this being in tech for through teen years to now. Like there's so many people in tech that they try so hard to heal the world, but like if you genuinely confronted them, be like, hey, how many of your friends like without any status or money actually like you? Like I know like for a lot of these people, and I know it's like I wouldn't like really confront someone to face like that because it's a little, unless like I was in an argument, but it's a little like disrespectful. But like that's a truth to the tech community that I think a lot of people need to themselves look at internally. It's like, so you're trying to save the world, but like a lot of people don't like you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, listen, because they're rather than just going and doing things that are beneficial from the world, they're talking about themselves. And it's
Right.
like no one likes anyone who talks about themselves. We like people who do things and then it gets news and press and then it's a story. And it's like, look at this
Yeah.
guy, he was doing something interesting. Here's what he's doing now. We don't like, hey everyone, I'm saving the world over here. You're like that. You're
That's
the
true
kid.
too.
You're the
Yeah.
kid who's you're the kid in high school who's got the table saying, "Hey, I've got brownies to save the
Yeah.
veterans or something,"
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
like, "Can you just like?" And he's taking his like free period to go do this, and everyone else is like, "I need this free period just to survive," and you're
Yeah.
the goody two shoes making me feel bad about it so that you can get into
D-
Harvard. Like, I don't
debate
like
kids
it.
are destroying the world. The debate kids have come together to destroy the world. We need
Who
to,
are these debate kids? I don't know. I haven't had a normal debate. Anyone that seems to have been
dude.
able to debate in years.
Well, they don't debate well, but like they don't
Oh,
actually debate in a confrontational, truthful manner. But pretty much like anyone that thinks that because they it's true, yeah. But like anyone from your high school and beyond that sort of thinks that they can like outthink the truth or with their feelings is pretty much who I see as a debate kid. And there's a lot of that in SF.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I hear you. I mean, that's just a there's certainly a segment of the intellectual elite that is just the debate kids. I mean, they were always trying hard.
Yeah, the tryhards.
Oh,
No,
so
but
this is an interesting conversation happening in the chat, which is basically like trying to compare the American debt system and credit system as like almost like a social score system in China, but just like a different kind of
interesting.
modern slavery. I mean, you could draw comparisons to some degree. It's obviously to a lesser extent than China, but credit scores do control a lot of the world, and it is a really inherently it's a hard system to actually navigate well without proper education. And
Yeah, yeah, and also there's the reality. A lot of credit's really complicated because like a lot of wealth is built in ways that are not related to your credit score. A lot of wealth is based on creating jobs, but also a lot of wealth like it's almost like a micro macro thing. Like a lot of wealth is based on your ability to leverage credit as well. So, um,
it's probably
the
good that France doesn't have a credit score system, Florian. I think there's probably something good to that. So long as the credit system and the people that are able to get how much money people are actually able to get on credit cards is determined based off of income and like savings levels and the normal metrics that should allow you to get certain levels of debt.
I think in general debt is modern slavery though, because like slavery didn't really like. I mean, slavery just got a different branding. Taxes are much higher in France.
Of
I
course.
believe it. Yeah, there's
Of
so much
course.
more social welfare.
But yeah, I mean, listen though. I mean, The thing is with France, and say what you will, but like, without having your healthcare paid for in the United States, in many ways, healthcare is the cost of healthcare is so much that it means that we pay almost as much as France would, if you include the fact that we have to pay for our own health insurance.
Yeah, that's true.
The fact that health insurance is not covered, like my parents have to spend $2,000 a month for a terrible health insurance policy because they're self-employed and they're 60 in their 60s, but they're both in. My mom's 110 pounds and has been for her entire life. My dad's got a six pack at 60. They're in phenomenal health,
Jesus
never had,
Christ.
and they've never had health problems. They're both in the best shape possible. And a bad health insurance policy is $2,000 out of pocket after tax money every month for my parents.
Jesus.
And that's what Americans have to deal with on a daily basis. So, yeah, France has higher taxes, but we have the worst health insurance system in the world that is expensive for everyone, even the healthy people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing about whenever I think about uh the healthcare system, I always think like you're kind of like leveraging how much power you want to give to the state versus the market. Well, obviously, and it seems like the more power you give the market, the harder it is for the government to be run by the people. So it's something that you have to leverage, like, and then maybe it's impossible to ever have the government run like in the way that it was designed, with this constitutional, regional, like you have these regional, like kings, little mini kings getting voted in by their tribes. But yeah, the heavier your market is, you're just gonna get lobbying, and it's not gonna work. So like, are we ever gonna be able to fix that? I don't know.
I don't know. It's really hard. I mean, people in power don't want to give up power. So, like, every single institution that has power doesn't want to let go. It takes a lot of effort to break each one down individually, like the health insurance industry,
Yeah,
politics, different governments, the finance system, whatever institution that has power and is corrupt and not as good as we'd like it to be that could use reform. None of them
yeah,
are going to make it easy for us to do reform. That's the inherent
yeah.
thing of power.
And I feel like there's like, believe me, it depends what country that leverages free healthcare. In France, I agree, top tier healthcare. Really? Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think, yeah, America, our care system does like suck, but I hear Canada's is really bad. I feel
Yes,
like it's a lot of this is downstream from the people. It's like, can the people like work together? I know like that's a little simplistic, but like if the people can't work together, you can't get anything done. I know that sounds simple, but it's like it's true. Like America's so divided. You could have any system, and we'd be like, no, I want this. Like we'd be like, no, my ideas are better
of
than
course.
yours.
Well, it's to my point earlier when people asked me like what politics are. I'm like I want the world to get better. Is my political party.
Yeah,
Like I don't look at it through a Republican or Democratic lens. So I just want to like how do we solve this problem and then this problem and then this
yeah,
problem. That's how I'd like to think about things. And so, but America does not encourage that today.
yeah.
We don't encourage that at all.
And it's demoralizing. Like I think that's a big part of like, because once you have a country so big that like essentially they destroy all like ability for people to gain, I guess, governmental or like market power without having these kind of like authorizers. And it's demoralizing to the average man. It's like that's a truth that's like happening now, where, and it might be because we're so big. That's the ultimate black pill, is that we're such a big population that like maybe you just can't, maybe you have to be like evil to be powerful. I don't believe that. I'm just saying that's like the black pill there. But like I think that is like a reality, to that question at least is a reality that a lot of people are kind of facing. And I think that that's a struggle.
I don't think it's you have to be evil.
I don't think so either.
Because it's like I think one why are there so many evil people in power that have money? One, power corrupts, so there are people that get money and then are willing to do devious things because they fall into a hedonistic loop or
Yeah.
whatever. They don't want to lose this feeling that they've been riding for 50 years, whatever it is. There's that. And then there are people like being a sociopath is really beneficial to business in many ways, like willing to throw people under the bus, cut deals, lie. etc., that is valuable and that is good for business and capitalism. So these people often succeed in business. So that's why a lot of them get to the top. So there's like a couple camps, but I don't. It's not like being. There's lots of great people who have lots of power and resources and are just chill bros and chicks. It's just like doing cool
Or
things.
or, and I mean like really powerful. I don't mean like just people that are rich. I think you can be like up to 100 millionaire and be like cool, but or at like that top 1.000%. To be at that level, you have to have a lot of debt when it comes like that hedonistic debt, not financial, and that's a part of why uh Jeffrey Epstein and people like that were useful because they were essentially, and this is like kind of public now, but they were essentially used to get debt, snap a picture with a very bad picture we won't talk about, as you're having fun, quote unquote, and we keep escalating, putting younger people in front of you. We got a picture of you. Now you have to agree to X amount of things, and then we will give you set amount of power.
I mean, there's.
Conspiracy. But
I
hey,
mean, yeah. I mean, it's. I think it's totally possible. I mean, listen, we've been honeypotting and tricking people and blackmailing people. We blackmailed. The FBI blackmailed MLK to our conversation earlier. So
it's
like,
true. It's
I
true.
mean, like anyone who just goes and says like, "Oh, there's no way the government would do that," I'd be like, guys, at this point, come on, what haven't they done?
Dude,
They've done everything terrible, every terrible thing you can imagine. You're like bioterrorism against their own people.
yeah.
Check. Be like injecting their own citizens with horrible diseases to see how things would go.
Yeah.
Definitely. So it's like they would never do that to the Yemenis, and it's like, guys, they do that to you
MK
sometimes.
Ultra was real. Whenever someone mentions MK Ultra, you're like, "Oh wow, that's like crazy." No, MK Ultra is a literally like that's like public knowledge. The CIA like tried brainwashing tons of people.
Of
Like
course. Of
like
course.
some of them who didn't know. Like
Of course.
with drugs. Yeah.
Yes, lots of people. Lots of people. They did this to lots of people. They injected black women with experimental vaccines and
Oh right.
medicines all throughout the 30s, 40s, up to the 60s. The 60s, the
Yeah.
70s, sometimes they were doing this to poor,
And
innocent, poor people.
you
I
think they're
mean,
not gonna do that to Bill Gates? You think they're like that's not gonna Bill Shates? Like you think like they're not gonna.
of course. Of course.
I think when the Eppenheim things, the Jeffrey Eppenheim thing came out, I think there were some people that with a lot of power that were like, man, all right, we gotta kill him. I think that happened. That's my
Probably. Probably.
pretty sure.
I mean, listen, you don't even have to get into. I don't like to go as far as you because I like the conspiracy side. But it's like, come on, guys. It's like, come on, really,
I
really hate heat. It's like someone. It's like if you came into my apartment and I had been stabbed 37 times, and my roommate was like,
Yeah,
he fell onto the knife
dude, he
37
fell.
times.
It's fine.
It's like, come on, all right,
Yeah,
maybe, but
and it's funny because it's like all these things with like all these things like happening in society, like you don't have that much control over any of that, so you kind of just like go with the ride. But just think, why is it every famous person was going to this same weird island with the same weird sex stuff, but that's all we'll say, happening at it. And some of them were like, "Oh, I was just there like having like a drink or two and I don't know anything about that." Like why would it be so many, and it's like so many famous people do the same stuff, like the Logan Paul thing that's happening right now. We don't do you know about that?
no, I have no idea what's happening.
Oh, so Logan, I mean, we don't have to. I don't want to
I'm
disparage
more.
a man with his marriage, actually,
Yeah, I don't
but
want to
I
know.
don't want to. We don't have
Let's
to get
not.
into it.
What I'd rather talk about is people are talking about Greenpeace was messing with the nuclear tests in the Pacific
Yeah,
Ocean.
what is this? I was like trying to read this and talk this. It's like,
I don't
wait,
know.
do you know the French government bombed the Greenpeace boat using the equivalent of the French CIA? They got caught by the Australians. Greenpeace was messing with the nuclear test. Dude, what?
Oh, I mean, so what?
There,
So I don't know if this is a conspiracy, but let me see if I can break down. France is like 80 to 90% or maybe 100% nuclear power generated. They're fully
is it?
nuclear. Yes, one of the only societies,
Wow.
or mostly nuclear.
Really?
Yes, it's French. French is the most dense use of nuclear power in the world, which is great, by the way. Go
Yeah,
France!
nuclear power is good. Yeah.
Nuclear power is awesome. Greenpeace is really anti-nuclear power because Greenpeace is filled with really dumb people who know
Yeah,
nothing. They
really
think that
dumb.
radiation is bad for the environment. Hilariously, if radiation killed all human beings on the planet would go back to being way healthier overall. Like
dumb dumb gibberals just like ruin society from their lack of understanding.
so what you're saying is I need to look into this later to see if this is true. This would be a crazy story, but apparently the French government saw that the Greenpeace was messing with something nuclear, and they bombed them, which is
Dude,
like I don't
based
know.
based
Hey,
France.
yeah, I mean, hey, if anyone messes with our stuff in America, we bomb them. I think that's kind of fair game.
Yeah.
Um,
Dude, I always like because France freaks me out. Like French people, their accent, their vibe kind of freaks me out. No offense to anyone, to Florian or anything. You seem cool, but like in general, the French accent just like always freaked me out. When
Oh,
we
the
were,
Rainbow Warrior in 1985 was a state terrorism bombing operation. Wow. So it was basically like so the French equivalent of the CIA. Damn.
hello, oh hey, from Nigeria.
Tarkula?
Wow,
How do we pronounce that?
yeah, how's it going?
What's up?
Said he says Godwin.
Oh, Godwin. Nice to meet you,
That's
Godwin. I'm
yeah,
dyslexic, so hard to
yeah,
read.
yeah. We're talking about like, yeah, his name's not Win God, it's Godwin, Jack. Jeez.
My B.
But yeah,
Man.
like we're just talking about nukes and Greenpeace and hippies trying to bomb
Ooh.
nukes.
Can I tell you about the book that I've been reading? That's the
Oh
best.
no, you just came from SF. I don't know, want to know what
No,
this is
it's
about.
amazing. It's called Physics for Future Presidents.
It's called the Communist Manifesto. No, Physics for Future Presidents.
It's awesome. You would love it. It's basically just like a physicist breaking down all the most important physics things that a president will have to think about and know.
Wow,
And he's like, you need to know what a dirty bomb is, like how nuclear waste is
wow,
actually stored. So there's like 150 pages just on nuclear, which I'm a total nerd about. So
yeah,
it's been so interesting.
that's so cool.
It opens the first chapter is about 9/11, by the way. The physics
Really?
and the physics behind 9/11. He's so
Does
based.
is it yay or nay?
No politics. He just goes through
Okay,
what happened from a physics standpoint to his knowledge.
okay, okay.
It does a
Can
good job of
can
not being
steel
political.
beams melt like that? Is that
Yes, he's like
uh,
steel beams can definitely melt like that.
really?
From a physics
Oh
perspective.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
like
it doesn't think is it's not about them melting completely. It's if they soften and then there's a huge load on top of them, then they can 100% collapse, which is what happened to the building. It was the collapse from
yeah.
softening of beams.
I'll have to read that and then subquote him and be like, no.
But either way, what's really awesome is just the stuff about nuclear, which is my favorite part because I'm a
So
huge pro nuclear guy.
I feel like that's a good scheme to get into. Like if you could like figure out how to get into nuclear and like but you can't really get into nuclear without like being authorized by the government. But I feel like we're so focused on maintaining control here on Earth and we're forgetting about Renovace Black Cosmos and we don't know anything about it. Well, I mean, what matters here on Earth, what matters in your day to day is what really matters. Like the humans really need to be more interested in the space. I think humans are what very interested. I think a lot of people are very interested in space.
Yeah, as until space can make. Here's the thing: if you want to live in a capitalist society, space has to start making more money for us to care more about it. That's a simple answer for capitalism. That's a fun. I like to take that belief every once in a while.
Alex coming in hot. That does not explain the actual melted beans and flowing metal, the firefighter. Yeah, Jack, there's a ton
I don't.
of. I didn't
Here's
want to get into it, but there's a
first of
ton
all.
of construction
I
people,
don't.
demo people.
Yeah, but you can't go off. What are we going to go off of eyewitnesses?
Yeah, but you know, I'm just saying we don't have to get into
We're
it,
not
but
getting into it.
because I don't
I
know enough to really engage with that. But like,
Neither do I.
I don't know. I don't know. Did 7-Eleven happen that way? We'll have to have a whole stream on the 7-Eleven
Yeah, we're gonna have to go
scheme.
into that. We'll have to both do ample reading,
Well,
and then we can discuss it.
let's take a thought experiment. I guess you'll start. What do you think is the best scheme in history?
What's the best scheme in history?
All of our history, all the history.
Yeah, you're not gonna like it.
I know what you're gonna say. Oh yeah, I know what you're gonna say.
I think that all the religions are the best schemes in history, and they're hands down the best. They've
Yeah.
the most lasting power and money out of any organization. What's been the richest organization for the longest amount of time? Any answers?
I would argue that the demoralization campaign within America, starting in the 40s and ramping up in the 60s, is the biggest scheme in history. I'll do a counter.
I mean,
I agree. Churches
who's it
have tons of
by? But
control.
who's it by? The
Let's
thing.
not get. We're on YouTube. We
Here's
can't
the
get into
thing.
that.
I don't because I don't and we've talked offline before, and you've never given me a clear answer as to who's behind this so-called
It's
scheme. So if you can't name a person behind or a group behind the scheme, then it's not. I
so
don't classify it as a known scheme. It's a conspiracy. It's not a scheme.
so. By the way, I actually agree. So with Florian and you, like, I actually do agree that many churches, especially like the Vatican, is one of the most like disturbing abuses of like religious ideas like ever in the world. 100%. I totally agree with that. I'm not like one of these like people that like is like, oh, like no, the church is great. In fact, I don't have like a specific uh the yeah. Actually, I don't know if the cognitive ability changed a lot back then, but like, because I mean, if you look at some of the inventions that happened back, it's like crazy. But I will say this, like, a lot of the actual ideas in religious thought, like the reason why, like, the religion is just like it's almost like the branding for the iconography that defines your life, the ideals and the representations that define your life. Everyone has a religion. It's just people worship different things. The organized religion from the state, I actually totally agree with you on that. I just don't think that it's like when we think of messiahs and we think of like the stories and the hero's journey that is collectively told in every culture, that stuff's just real, in my opinion. But I agree with you with the organized religion part.
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, I'm just unclear. What the scheme of religion is kind of falling apart because so much of the control state of organized religions was predicated on us not understanding how the physics of the universe works, and we've gotten much more evolved in the last 75 years to know at least have some inclination of how
I
things
would
work.
argue we've been devolving the past 75 years. Have you seen the Zoomers? I don't
I
think I
I
I
mean from
think
a
without like proper worship in something that is unified and something that is representing some sort of reality in creation or some sort of awareness of creation, I think it's actually destroyed people's brains. I think people can't like I think people can't focus. I think that there's like, well, also people can't hunt. People like if you go to the average like high school right now, like half of these kids are on like they're like flicking on their iPad and all that. I don't think, and you could say that's technology, but I don't know. We've had tons and tons of different technology throughout the years that's have like changed. Like we had reading and writing. We had like so much stuff, and it seems like before media, the thing that's been like spiritually killing us, in my opinion, before that, we've been able to cope with tons of different technology that's stimulating.
like what? Nothing's. This is the most. This technology is
Music, the
no. This technology is 100 times more stimulating than music, and it's not even close.
I'm addicted to my phone. Well, so I would say are you addicted to your phone? Are you addicted, like, what are you addicted on your phone? Let's unpack that.
Yeah, he's addicted to likely everything. He's addicted to the fact that he might get text, to the fact that someone might, like something on social media, or what about I'm wasting the 5 minutes I'm in the toilet? I got to watch a YouTube video or a TikTok or whatever. Like, it's
But
just what
it's
everyone does.
all those things are information. All those things are downstream from, and it's probably a lot of it's probably social media, and a lot of those things are downstream from the the spectacle of media in society, or the society of the spectacle, which is an interesting book about these concepts. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're like, are you addicted to your phone, or are you addicted to the media apparatus that you're glued to because it's what dominates all of the iconography in your life, all the ideals, whether you want to be Batman, Superman, whether you want to be Top G, or you want to be like whoever, like all the like ideals are all just controlled through media, and eventually kids start, not knowing what the truth is, and then they start offing themselves either in a slow death or a quick one. Let's see. So I think the main thing that distinguishes us from animal is intelligence and also adaptability. Maybe nowadays in a different way, but we're constantly trying to adopt new things. Yeah. What do you think distinguishes us from animal?
Um, it's consciousness. It's the ability to think, have self awareness. Like most animals
Yeah.
have awareness of things around them, and they have awareness. But the literal difference between us and them is consciousness. The reason we relate to elephants or to orcas is they show signs of self awareness. That's what's amazing about them. That distinguishes us from animals is self awareness and intelligence, to Reed's point as well.
I wonder if self-awareness is intelligence.
It is a form. I believe that. I think it's also trainable. Awareness to some degree is trainable because there's levels to it. There's people that are way more perceptive naturally, and there's people who are way less perceptive naturally, like
Yeah.
IQ. But then there are some people who are just completely oblivious and not perceptive at all, and they're like the mentally handicapped of self-awareness category. But
Right.
they can function intellectually in society, but they're completely oblivious and are easy to take advantage of.
What do you think is like, if I'm addicted to the capacity of being thrown in a conversation that is tailored to my interests with all dudes around the world at 3 a.m. here? I was going to bed. Haha, that's cool. Yeah, man. I'm glad you're here. You're adding a lot to the chat.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you here, but I hope you do get some sleep.
Yeah, you should. Don't follow me, dude. Did Jack? Did you know I was streaming for 8 hours building this AI last night?
No, didn't touch grass. Oh my god, eight
It's,
hours and 21 minutes. Yeah, you're right. Holy cow!
yeah.
Wow, well, that's
I
killer.
gotta keep going.
That's how it goes.
Urgh.
That's how it
I'm
goes.
trying to go Super Saiyan eventually.
It's interesting. Florian is saying vertical video feeds are more addictive than weed. Yeah, they are definitely. I mean, it's crazy the ability to stimulate yourself with sex, with a hobby, with something exciting. It can flip between every single type of mental stimulation that you could possibly ever imagine,
Yeah.
and flip through in the most tantalizing, glued to your face sort of way. It's crazy.
So, Sai said something interesting. Yeah, religion clearly provides direction, but pursuing one sole truth historically just leads to prejudice and hate. Well, we have to unpack that, because what do you mean by one sole truth? Because I would argue that there's objective truth that we can try to distill and figure out. And if you try to pursue that, then I don't think there's any issue with that. But I think trying to pursue one thing that is not the truth is really bad. And I think we've seen a lot of that. And a lot of people like manipulating and trying to socially control, as Jack's saying, the truth, and trying to like conquer people through that, which, we've seen. I mean, the Crusades.
But yeah, the problem is that religion or any belief system is really easy to take advantage of when it also controls all money
Yeah,
and government,
I totally
which is
agree.
what which is what religion did for the longest time. But it was
It did.
separated from state. That was the separation of church and state is a very good thing inherently, because this, because if the church can become the state, they're going to be making some bread. They like to make money too.
And
I
by the
mean,
way, with what I'm saying, I'm not at all disagreeing with any of that happened. I'm just providing. I'm just trying to provide a different perspective where I think the more I try to search for why there seems to be this like spiritual death happening, the closer I get to there's been this slow, and I think it was actually 75 to 80 years ago, this slow rejection of objective truth and trying to figure out what that is. Well, I feel like that would, you just said, is paradoxical. Like, who's to say what's the truth in the first place? I don't think a man can say what the truth is. I think the truth reveals itself. Like, I can't like just like define truth. Okay,
yeah.
so I'll keep waiting until you turn Super Saiyan. All right, Florian. See ya.
Peace out. I think we should also read the comments more out loud so that we,
Oh, true.
aren't mumbling them for our viewers after the stream.
I'm
Just
sorry.
to call out to you poor people that are watching the recording going, can these guys just
I
read
totally
these
forgot
comments?
that. Yeah, dude, I've been just like,
Yeah,
anyway.
mumbling. If you're going to read them full, loud.
Anyway, so what Florian's saying is, yeah. What were we just talking about?
We were talking about the truth.
Religious person I met in real life was using it for good. I was mostly about community, love, and excuse to meet people. Yeah, that's in like the micro. Religion really is that. Like, it's
Yeah,
not complicated. I mean, it's not like even religion. That's just like,
community.
yeah.
We're communal creatures by nature. I think we lose sight of that too, which is like we literally could not. We aren't meant to survive on our own. Survival as a single human being is really, really, really challenging. Survival as 100 human beings is a lot easier. Survival as 1,000, a million, a billion human beings is even easier. So I think that that the whole thing is that community is what's valuable for human prosperity, and religion was a way for people to be communal and to love each other and support one another through this shared thing for a long time.
But there's also a community aspect that is damning, which we're seeing now in society, where people will appeal to community standards, especially socially, and then try to dominate within that community, which I think is why we're seeing so much social alienation too, because like you can't really like being very truthful is not, for a lot of the communities we have, isn't very like, it doesn't align with that. They ignore the bad stuff in their books and focus on love, like fight and community. That's good. I mean, well, yeah, I guess that's good. I mean, focus on love and community. Yeah.
I don't know what he's trying to say, to be fully honest. And
I think he's just saying that they focus on love and community.
listen, religion is we always get back to religion. Maybe we have to ban religious discussion for like the next 3 streams, because we always get back to the core.
We were talking about something that I was like totally, I was like, well, it was really interesting, and I totally forgot it. Whatever, we'll just keep going.
We're gonna have to keep going.
We'll just keep going.
Do you want to hear about? Do you want to hear about my time on the yacht?
Yeah, let's talk about your time on the yacht. Let's talk about it.
I think so. This is an interesting scheme that I actually got wrapped up in the other days. So the other day I cooked for 25 people on a 171-foot mega yacht, and it was obviously gorgeous, beautifully crafted, could sleep 50 to 60 if it has to.
Yeah.
A gigantic kitchen, hot tub on the deck of the top. I mean, this thing was the biggest and nicest boat in San Francisco. That's how nice of a boat that it was. And so, but the interesting thing is, it's not just one really rich person that owns it. It's a family and a group of friends that all co-own and use this boat.
I like that.
And they also have like a ranch where there's multiple homes on the ranch where different families and family friends live, almost in a commune. And it's like just so they get to live with their friends. They
I like
structured
that.
a life where they're able to like live and work. They like operate the boat on vacations. Everyone gets shifts. It's impeccable order and clean all the time. They homeschool their children and then sail
Love it.
3 months uh, of the year, 6 months a year, 3 months in the winter, 3 months in the summer. It is incredible. But it's basically they're living like a commune in some ways, which allows them to live on literally the sickest mega
Dude,
yacht in the
how did you
world.
get like how do you know about this again?
It's one of my buddies is the son of one of the owners.
Dude, that's amazing.
It's incredible. He grew up sailing around the world. He's 30 now and he's a
Yeah.
startup bro. Shout out to Andy. He's literally the man,
Nice.
the super talented
Shout
and
out Andy.
the smart entrepreneur. And we'll definitely have him on the pod someday.
Oh, awesome.
He's a big time schooling. Um,
Nice.
is homeschooling the wave? I don't know about. No, I don't think so necessarily. I think school is good socially for children, and even my buddy Andy would have said like he went to high school sophomore year
Yeah.
of high school when he was 15 or 16 was the first time he went to high school to public school. But I think it's good for you in many ways to have that social experience. But I think if your school system's horrible, then yes, home system schooling is the way, and you're smart enough to do it. But it's really
Yeah.
hard. Most people are not smart enough to homeschool their children. Hate to
That's a good
break it to
point.
you.
Homeschooling I see as like it's downstream of like it's almost like if we took education and then made that capitalist, but like within the family units. Like that's the competition because it's really based on who's the parent. Like I personally I believe in myself enough where I would want to homeschool my kids, but only if I was in an area, hopefully rural, where I was around other families that we were all homeschooling our children together that I trusted in a network, where so the kids could have, and a big one, so the kids could have that socialization that Jack's talking about. But like, and I know some people doing that, and I've seen parts where homeschooling is not good,
Totally.
and I've seen parts where it's like I'm like, how do I get that? You know, especially like
Totally.
I feel like once in your Jack, you probably also experience this. Once you get in your mid 20s, you start thinking about like how you will start like living your life and doing family stuff and things like that. And it's like it really is like it's such a convenience to have the public school, but like if you have the community and the network, I think homeschooling and then the ability, I think homeschooling's really cool.
It is cool. It's a lot of time and effort. You think about how
It's a
much money
lot.
you actually have to be able to homeschool your kids effectively.
Yeah, well, you need to have also just have like a lot of your life being very independent. Like you, so that's
Totally.
reason why I meant rural. So it's like, do you have a farm? You know, do you have like what's your community look like if you don't have a farm and things like this? And I mean that for food. Are you like best friends with a guy who does? You know, there's some things like that. But it's like imagine like your best buddy could be like teaching the skills to your kids and things like that. Like that's pretty cool. Like and then especially if your network has a lot of like smart people and stuff like that.
Yeah, theoretically, it's great. It just almost never happens.
I've seen it enough, especially because it's there's a wave in it. There's a few communities that I've seen that I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
Like,
it's great when it
but I've seen
works.
it not go. I've seen
Yeah,
it
most of
definitely
the
not go
cases
well.
of homeschooling I've seen are bad.
Yeah.
Most of them are bad, or at the very least, they're no better than public school.
I
People often had to unlearn things after they went through homeschooling.
I think part of the cool thing now is we're in this shift where because there's like a lot of people wanting to do it, hopefully it can change the culture a bit. Like hopefully we can get because really everyone used to be homeschooled. Like
Totally.
hopefully we can get to it because public schools are like so insane. Like they really just create little cogs. And I think that like we're seeing the effects of that in our society. I had a question earlier. Considering the education system is mainly for credentialing outside of academic research, how do you see self-learning on the internet evolving in the coming years? What do you think about that?
Um, sorry, let me read it. Considering the education mainly Yeah, I think, well, the only problem with self-learning is that you actually have to be taught how to learn. Most
Mm,
people don't know how to learn because they're constantly being told to believe a particular ideology. Education is supposed to be a process of constantly changing your mind and learning new things and evolving. But if you're always looking at selective information, or you're looking at education through the lens of a bias, which many people are these days inherently because of social media and the biases that we live in, just living in certain regions of the country where we're subject to bias. So it's like, we have to be taught how to learn, and I think our education system and most people do not know how to learn effectively on their own. So I think if people know how to learn, or the fundamentals of learning, then I think then you can learn a lot online. But then the problem also becomes incentives.
yeah.
Most people are not, if you do not most people aren't just intellectually curious enough. Like, I read Wikipedia like every day. I'm just like, I think of something and I
Dude, I'm the
go,
same. I
and
think I
I
think that's
just
why we're friends.
absolutely, I if I think of something, I research it sometimes for hours. If
Yeah.
I just have a thought, like, how does that work, or what about that?
Yeah.
Can happen 10, 15 times a day sometimes. Some people in my life go, that's insane. What are you talking about? Also, I've actually think about doing another podcast with my twin brother called Rabbit Holes, where we just talk
Nice.
about the Wikipedia rabbit holes we went down that week,
Nice. I like that.
which I think would be really fun. So keep an eye out for that. But to my point, like I just said, is just like, people, if they're not forced to learn, they're not going to. Most people,
This is a
intellectual
great topic.
curiosity is not a universal thing
Well,
across the board.
here's the thing, because this is also kind of goes into the homeschooling thing right a little bit. Such is a really good topic because I think this is so like we're approaching this from like the aspect of like really if you're someone who's has thinks intuitively, which is really what we're talking about with self-learning. It's like you're an intuitive thinker. You interact with the world by your intuitions and following through on them. It's like, oh, that's interesting. I'll go look at the Wikipedia article and like figure that out. A lot of this stuff you learn growing up seeing your parents. Like you'd be
Sure.
surprised how many intuitive thinkers their parents are. And also how many let's just say self-learners their parents are. And also or just
Yes.
there was some mentor growing up that was like that
Yes.
and you don't even like know because
Yeah.
it's not you don't think about that, right? And
Totally.
and yeah.
I got
I,
lucky. I always say that, like, the best education I got did not come from school. It came from my parents. They're
that's
both
awesome. That's awesome.
incredibly well read, and they would debate me every night. We would
That's so
argue.
good.
They'd read to me every night. They'd engage me like an adult, and they taught me how to think. And they'd be like, "I think you're wrong," and I'd be like, "Oh, you're wrong for X, Y, Z reasons." And I think that that's very useful. But most people don't
And
have that,
and
unfortunately.
also that so th- another thing about that is like one that's the main like thing that a kid should learn by the time he's 18 is to be a self-learner and to have be an intuitive thinker. There's so many ways to instill that in kids and in none of it I just barely see any of it in school because the more you think that way, well, the more you're going to be someone that's like disrupting things because you're going to be asking too many questions because like really like you in my opinion you want kids to learn in a way where they're this is why I think little like boys you should give them swords like you should give them like something where they can poke at stuff. I think that's part of why like every kid wants a sword. It's like it's actually has a functional use. It's like it gives you an ability to hit the world and see what comes back and
Can I?
see how, yeah.
I need to make a counter argument too, which is just that, like, the biggest thing, people like, how did I learn most things? By doing them.
Yeah,
You learn
100%.
by action. You don't learn
100%.
no learn because the thing with
I agree with that. Yeah.
because you think about, you don't remember things that you don't do. So you can read books, but you'll forget most of the content if it's not applied because it's not useful. So you have to actually do stuff to
Yeah.
learn. Um, and 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 I think that, people ask me, how did you learn? I dropped out of college. I learned everything.
Same.
We both are college dropouts. I know more than most people my age, and I have more skills. I also know nothing because I'm
Yeah.
constantly trying to learn, and I realize that, I may be above my peers, but there's so much more that I can learn, and there's so much room for growth. And I'm not God by any means. And so it's like, just most people, don't ever just do, no one's doing anything. They're reading books. They're scared of failure. They're not trying. They're not
Yeah.
experimenting. They're not building a website and it crashing. I learned by trying to build Minecraft servers and just being like slamming my head against the wall for 8 hours and then failing and then it not working and then bringing in my brother who set it up in 5 minutes. And I go, can you show me how you did that? And then he shows me. And then I do it the next time right.
And the only way you can actually become like a good thinker that way, an intuitive thinker, is you have to constantly, as you're saying, take action and follow through on your intuition. So it's like as a boy, you poke things and you see what happens. As you grow up as a man, you have to think about something and then do it after you think it. And that's like that, the more you train that muscle. Also, it's like because there's a lot of people that they're very good at looking at an object and seeing the use of it. That's one of the main things, honestly, like that's being tested in IQ is this sense of pattern recognition. It's like, would you be able to get any object, and I'm being a very abstract for a reason, and be able to make it into a tool? Like that's the most advanced way humans can work.
Totally.
And the only way you can do that is by doing it intuitively, following through on a ton of different disciplines, like learning instruments, learning coding, learning how cars work, learning how like you're doing like, and you do that really young, so that in sports, so playing a ton of sports, people who play more sports are, smarter. Like doing a ton of different things, your brain is like getting these abstractions for what an object is, for what these like, it's like if you learn how to build a car, a house, a computer, blah blah blah, you're gonna start seeing like, oh, actually, like the engine is very similar to this system in the computer. Like you're gonna start making so many abstractions that like, yeah, your pattern recognition skills are gonna be great. That's why it's like you don't just do one thing, do a ton of stuff.
Absolutely. The diversity of doing things is what leads to the complex understanding of the world.
Yeah. It's like, but also like after doing that, like once you're grown, like you should probably like go hard at one thing so then you can apply that knowledge and become great.
For sure.
Content of real college classes are available for free online, not tutorials or online classes only. The real stuff filmed with paying students. The thing is like a lot of people don't have the self-learning capacity. They're not self-driven because they were more so they got intuitions and they were told to just do something.
Can I propose a scheme? What if these online courses functioned like normal universities, where you knew everyone who was taking the test with you, and it was public grades, and you can also fail out of the class. Like you don't get the certificate unless you actually complete it and get an A, and you can fail. You can get C's and B's and A's. You actually have to build an incentive structure to make people, because like what's college? And college is like an incentive because you're paying $200,000 and you can fail out and have wasted and that $200,000 you don't get it back if you fail. Yeah. So you actually try hard. So you have to build an incentive structure for online learning that actually incentivizes people to follow through with real life consequences. I like that. You need human beings need consequences. Yeah. Otherwise, we don't function properly.
And also it matters so much, because if you don't live like that, you're like you wonder why your coaches, your dads like got mad at you when you like didn't do, and you're like, oh, that guy, like when you're a kid, you're like, he's mean. But when you're an adult, you realize this person's trying to make it so you don't go to prison. Like this person's trying to make it so you can like be so high functioning with all your testosterone that you can like actually help people and be productive. It's like you need that, like, no, stop, don't do, you need some structure and authority especially when you're young.
Totally.
EDX tried to offer certificates where you have to show up to in-person exams. No clue out. I think you're more so talking about the accountability structure,
which is also important to some degree.
Yeah. See, I feel like that process you're describing also largely self-paced, which would be, I think that would be legendary.
I think it would be interesting. I think there is a certain amount of people who would pay for consequences. Like I'm thinking about starting, I have a new scheme, but I think it's useful. So a bunch of my friends like me are self-employed and they have to be accountable to only themselves. So I'm thinking about starting a paid accountability group with all my
Ooh, I like that.
solo entrepreneur friends, where it's like, it's not a ton of money, but it's enough meaningful where like you show up on Monday, you say, what did you get done this week? What are you going to do this week? And then you can actually bring in like interesting speakers, expert lawyers, HR people, whatever they might need to run their business.
Yeah.
But you also have this accountability that you pay for and buy in, where it's like you are investing in this because if you, it needs to be painful. There needs to be a consequence of not actually taking it seriously, which is both monetarily and also you're not working hard enough to push your business forward.
You know why I like that idea a lot? Because like I would the value I would get out of that is I would pay to be around people like me that would pay.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's the whole point of
That's
social
cool.
clubs. That's
Yeah,
clubs.
yeah,
Paid
yeah.
clubs are important because you want to be able to like even think about the fundraising boot camp I do. It's knowing that people paid. Other people go. Someone else paid $1,500 for this. They're taking it
Yeah.
seriously enough where they're dropping $1,500. Like there's at least that standard of how serious that they are, and
Because the
that's yeah,
Yeah, like and I know you know this, but like the more like you get into entrepreneurship, the more you start realizing, wow, like your real value as an entrepreneur is really if you can hold yourself accountable. Like if you can fully hold yourself accountable first and then you delegate accountability, you're like that's the skill. That's really it. Like if like you realize no one's coming more so than other people, like you're more competitive.
totally.
See, drop a bunch of decent tablets in Northern Ohio with just education material with standardized self-paced, accountable courses on any topic you're interested in that could make some cool things. What do you mean decent tablets in Northern Ohio? Are you saying like,
Oh, and like to try and fix the education system in Northern
oh,
Ohio.
okay.
I
I
see.
don't
I
know
see. I
anything
see.
about that.
I mean, he's trying to propose a new system, maybe to fix Ohio. I think it's a thought experiment.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Um, Either
I,
way, it's listen. This is I just education needs incentive structures, and we need to take it seriously in order for people to grow.
and the people like us that dropped out know more about it.
Right? It's.
That's what I say.
I mean, listen. Of course, I like to think that I know stuff too. All right, man. I feel like we're winding down. Should this?
Yeah,
Let's call it here.
yeah.
It's a good
Let's
one.
call it here. I just realized we're already on an hour and 30. All right,
We're gonna do
Jack.
another on Friday, so I'll see you all on Friday.
Another on Friday. Have fun, everyone.